It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day everybody, Duckville here. We're going to be watching some replays today from the grand final of a local tournament down in Melbourne, Perth and over in Auckland in New Zealand. So this is going to be from the MC Internet tournament. As you can see here, I put the guy's little logo down there just so you can see who it is. As I said, they've got shops down in Auckland in New Zealand. There's 2 shops in Auckland, there's 2 in Melbourne, and there are 2 in Perth. No, there's 1 in Perth, my bad. But yeah, this is from a tournament that was hosted by MC Internet Cafe on the 17th of April. These 2 players we've got here are some pretty good players, of course. They did make it to the grand final, so they're certainly not your average Bronze League player. In the beautiful pink here as the Zerg is nGenSoft, but do not be fooled by that name. You may know him on the NA server, I think it is, as nGenMaster. And of course the nGen guys are some really high quality players over here in the C world, and of course we do see lots of the C players in the top 200 of C, and of course on I believe a couple of them have made it onto NA top 200 as well. I'm not too sure about that, but anyway, his opponent over here will be the green Terran known as Finest. Of course, I don't actually know too much about Finest, there wasn't too much information, but as I said, this was from a local tournament. So this is going to be firstly on Typhon. This map is really, it's quite an interesting map. I'm sometimes personally still not sure about whether I like this map or not. The natural expansion, once again, is very, it seems to be the favorite of Blizzard, is to make the natural expansion extremely open, as we could see just before there. And this does make it a little bit interesting for both Terran and Zerg. Of course, the Zerg, if you're worried about Hellion harass, you can get Hellions running through the back here and up into the mineral line and in your base and all that sort of stuff. And of course, as a Terran, you've got to compete with Zerglings who can do the same sort of thing, run around the back, do some harass, that sort of thing. So do have to be careful about that. So these 2 players, of course, fought through. I can't remember exactly how many players were in this tournament, but it was certainly a lot of players from each of the individual locations, and they've done really well. There are actually some other games that I saw from the replay pack. The replay pack will be posted in the description, by the way, which were some really cool games. So I'm going to cast some of them as well and get them up as soon as possible. I have had a bit of delay, unfortunately, due to me being sick. But let's get into the game and have a look at what's going on. We do have a drone being very annoying from Master there. I'm going to call him Master just, by the way. That's what he's mostly known as, especially in the nGen side, I believe. Anyway, he's come along here, stolen the gas. Very cool to do that against a Terran opponent. Interesting to do it against a Terran who has grabbed the factory there, because if you see a factory this quickly, it can be something either Banshees, in which case taking the gas is very good. Of course, you want to slow down as much gas income as you can. But one thing we notice here, oh, and he cancels it, brilliantly done by Master there. One thing you'll notice is that we got the ... there from Master. We've got the no SCVs inside this gas, the first gas that was built. So that's actually going to be a sign, perhaps, that we will see some Hellions, perhaps some Blue Flame Hellion harass, along with an expansion, as we can see here. So the command center is going to go up pretty quickly there, and we'll probably see some Hellion harass to cover the expansion. Now, meanwhile, over on the other side, Master is gone for looks to be a roach opening. He is aware, of course, that those Hellions will be coming across soon and giving him a bit of trouble. And of course, the best way generally to handle the Hellions is to get some roaches out. Of course, some good Queen Micro also helps. And as you can see here, the Hellion just scouting out what's going on. It's going to spot that expansion is up. It's going to head inside this main base here. Goes inside to the mineral line, tries to get an arrest on the, tries to take down some of those drones, but they do a citizen's arrest and almost destroy the Hellion. But the Hellion, once again, flying away. A roach comes in, gives him the don't argue, and the harass has now ceased. So a little bit of attempted harass there, not really pulling off too much by Finest, although I would suspect he's not too phased that there wasn't really anything that happened there. Just good to actually get inside and scout what's going on. Speaking of scouting, as we have a quick look here, we did have, I believe that was a Ling or something, actually got inside and saw that the command center was going up. We do have a second factory, so this is either going to be some very heavy Hellion pressure from Finest, or perhaps he's going to switch into something mech. We don't actually see mech too often against Zerg at the moment. Of course, roaches are really powerful against a lot of the mech units. They just run straight through Hellions, of course, and rip them up, and they can do quite well against some of the other mech units. But of course, mech is extremely powerful once you actually get up your upgrades and you actually get a nice little metal ball going. So I'd be really happy to actually see a full mech style from Finest, which is hopefully what we're going to see, but we'll find out soon. We do have the second and third gas going up for nGenMaster. He's going to be getting that up just in a moment. These Hellions don't have blue flame, keep in mind. One of them is about to die, I would suspect. It's a good micro there from Master to actually capture these Hellions. Actually losing two of the drones there, unfortunately, and this Hellion is going to get perhaps another kill. There was one low drone there which did go down, so a little bit of harass finally working out there for Finest, and he's going to use that cover, as we mentioned before. He's using the cover of this harass to actually get this expansion up. Going to see this orbital command drop down to the natural expansion. Probably a few SCVs will be switched over with it. Perhaps we'll see that in just a moment. But a third factory is up, so this is 3 factories pumping out Hellions. Keep in mind once again that there is no blue flame, so I'm just a bit surprised that he's going so heavy on these Hellions without the blue flame. Although there you go, Tech Lab. So we're probably going to see a switch, either a switch into tanks and make it a bit more tank heavy and a bit more anti-roach, or perhaps we may see the blue flame come up. Meanwhile, as we were talking about before, the extra gas has been taken by Master, and it looks as if he's going to head straight to the Spire. So he's going to get the Spire going and probably get some mutas out to harass. Mutas are great until a Thor comes along, of course, so we'll see if Finest is going to be prepared for that. He is rolling in here with these Hellions. There are only 5 of them at the moment. There are a few Lings out. Oh, six of the Hellions now, so he's going to be able to come through here, perhaps roast up some of these Zerglings if he can, but he gets captured from the other side. Zerglings getting roasted up there. That was a huge barbecue. These guys are quite hungry and they're going to have some Zergling legs for dinner. But picking up a lot of those Zerglings, still some great micro there from Finest, taking out a lot more than he probably should have. But we see in the end that Master does take over and actually destroy those few extra Hellions that were left over. Looking at the gas just for the moment, because that is pretty much the most important part of watching what a Terran is doing, is to see how many SCVs are in gas. Now I'm not sure if this was just like an accident that he hasn't put extra ones in those gas, but he certainly only has 1 for the moment in both of these refineries. So we'll see, perhaps maybe it will be just a light mech. I'm not really sure, but there is a Thor on the way now, so we'll probably see that coming up to protect the base once the mutas get into effect. As we can see, some Hellions just running around again, still trying to do a bit of pressure. Now, Master doing a really good job with these creep tumors here in game 1. So we've got a couple of these tumors just popping along now. We've got 2, or is it 3? No, we've got 4 active tumors going along. This will be really good if he can actually cover this side, this area up here, where you actually have a lot of like a run-by place for Hellions and other units that can run through there. It'd be really good if you can actually cover that off and then get the vision of that as well. So we do see that some mutas are out. We do have a total of 9 mutas that are all grouped up here. We'll probably see these guys fly in. We do not have, there's just the 1 Thor and 1 turret for the moment, but the 1 Thor is definitely the massive problem for the mutas actually getting in there. So the mutas have been diverted for the moment. They've been given a detour, so they're not going to head down into the base. Finest supply capped at the moment. Making sure he's going to get a couple of supply depots. He is grabbing one just down there at the natural. I really want to see people use cooldown supply more, because people still get a bit confused about cooldown supply. With cooldown supply, you're actually making 100 minerals, where I know with a mule, you actually put down a mule, you actually get your minerals faster, but you're not actually making minerals, as it were. So I don't know, cooldown supply is my favorite when I'm playing as Terran, but that's just me. So we'll see if anyone else starts to use that. But Thor took a shot here, took out one of the mutas, and there is one just a little bit low in health. This guy is just 100 health here, and he's going to need to be careful, because it looks as if the Terran force is just going to move up here. It looks as if Finest is going to try and take this 3rd base. If he can secure the 3rd base here and actually get that up and running, his economy will be absolutely steaming along, and he'll be able to pump out a lot of the mech units, as we were talking about before. And an attempted magic box there with those mutas, but the Thor runs into the corner. Not really sure what that was meant to achieve, but the Thor did escape that magic box and was able to put down some hurt on these mutas. And the mutas, meanwhile, will try and fly inside the main. There are 2 Thors out now, of course, so one of them is inside the main. A beautiful shot there from that Thor on top of the muta ball, takes out one of them, and then the other Thor is now coming into effect here. These mutas are not having a good day at all. They're going to need a pay raise if they want to actually stay inside this battle for the moment. Just keeping an eye on what Master is up to. Droning up really hard here, as we can see. He's up to 72 drones at the moment. He's doing a great job of actually just holding the Terran in his base just for the moment. It's not as if Finest is actually really compelled to stay in his base for the moment, but it is good to stay there just for the moment whilst he secures the 3rd base. As I said before, if he secures this, gets a couple of turrets up, makes sure this is secure, he will be able to get his economy pumping, and it will be absolutely great shape for him. As you can see, these mutas taking a lot of flak there and getting absolutely annihilated by the Thors, and there's only 2 left. One of them has, it looks like that guy's got like 1 health, 3 health on this muta, 5 on this one, although they do have a couple of kills between them, so it's good to get a couple of kills out, of course. Now, Neural Parasite is being researched by Master, and he's got that on the way. That'll be done quite soon. Of course, Neural Parasite is a great way to deflect a mech attack. You can either use it to Neural Parasite on the Thors and control the Thors, which take, of course, a lot of damage. They'll be able to it sort of rediverts the damage from your normal Zerg units into the Thors, and then the Thors will take the hits, and then of course you're taking Terran units out of the battle. Or of course you can use Fungal Growth, which is another option against mech, because of course all of the mech units are armored. As we can see here, we've got the tanks with their armor, we've got the Marauders with their armor, which included a lot in mech, and we do see of course the Thors, which are the massive armored units, and they do take the extra damage. Of course, the one counter to that is that a Thor has 400 health, so you know, you could make the argument that the 30% doesn't really make too much of a difference, but it's definitely good to have a go at that. Now, the one concern I have for Master at the moment, he has seen that his opponent is going for a very heavy mech style, as we can see with all the tanks and Thors and everything grouping up there, but I would really love to see him. There he goes. He has taken a 4th base, and I would really love him to actually grab a 5th base, because this is a really good way to actually control the flow of the game in a against the mech opponent. So just take a few more bases. This guy is not going to move out for a while. I would suspect he's probably not going to move out until he gets another couple of the upgrades done. He is going for infantry weapons level 2, and armor as well. He's going for level 2, so he's certainly doing a great job with that. But I think he's not going to move out just for the moment, but we'll see what happens. He's taking out the rocks here. Of course, Typhon is actually a little bit of a sort of a sideways version of the old Shakuras Plateau, if you actually think about it, because you've got these bases here that are connected by this backdoor path. You've got all these expansions. The only real difference, I suppose, compared to Shakuras is that the expansions are off on the sides like that, instead of down along the edges of the map. But that is what we're going to have, and we do see that the roaches now do have their highlights and their spiky hair. They're going to be able to burrow underneath the mech army if need be. The one problem for Master will be that there is just so much firepower here. We do have the army now starting to move out. The tanks have unsieged. He's scanned ahead to make sure he knows what is going on, and he's starting to move through here. We'll be able to take out a couple of these creep tumors. The roaches coming along, and the Infest is putting down the Neural Parasite on a couple of those Thors. Unfortunately, the Infestors do get targeted, of course, by tanks. As you can see, the tanks off to the side there, and they have taken out a lot of that army. That was not a good battle for Master, losing a lot of his forces there. The tanks and obviously 2 of the Thors are still alive. The only real losses for Finest were a lot of that bio army, and as you can see, a lot of roaches about to pop out for Master at the moment. He's pumping out 23, roughly 23 or so roaches. He's going to need to be really careful here. He's got +2 to the armor, so they will take a lot of damage, but this kind of thing is not what you want to do. Just sort of burrowing those roaches through, attempting to sneak through, but he just wasn't able to because of the scan. And now we do see again that the burrow move is on. We do have the tanks unsieging. A scan goes down in the wrong spot, but it still does capture the roaches and sees where they were. And the tanks are now unsieged. They do have +1 to their weapons. The roaches have +2 to weapons and armor, and they will get cleaned up there, despite the fact that they do have superior upgrades. And obviously the tanks doing extra damage against armored units, doing 55 against armored units, so they're going to be able to push through here, and it may be quite hard for Master to actually stop this attack. What he needs is some mutas to try and snipe out these tanks. Now that the Thors are gone, if he can snipe out some of the tanks, that would be really good, but it looks as if he's going for a surprise attack. Jumps on top of those tanks, takes out 2, takes out 4, and a couple of them have been destroyed. Another scan being used there by Finest to clean out the rest of those roaches, and it looks as if he does actually fend off that attempted counter-attack at the side there. But we do have a fourth now up and running, not saturated yet for Finest, but he's certainly going to give it a go in just a minute. There are a couple of mutas actually flying around. There is one Viking, two Vikings to contest them in disguise, but it looks as if they should be able to handle that for the moment. One Viking down, two Vikings down, and these tanks are actually up for grabs now. If he can take out the tanks, it'll be really good for Master, but it looks as if some Marines are starting to come along, and we do see that, oh no, there's only just a few Marines are popping out of the racks at the moment here, so he's going to need to resupply the anti-air units if he can, because these mutas are going to absolutely go to town on what is left over in the Terran army in the middle. But we do see a little counter-attack here. Speaking of little, it's only Zerglings against the Planetary Fortress. We all know that this is not going to happen, and of course the Planetary cleans up all of those lings there. It's got 18 kills. What an absolute badass Planetary Fortress. But now that this base is up and running, this has just gotten infinitely harder for Master to actually come back from this game. He is getting his +3 to armor, the carapace, and the missile weapons for his roaches, of course. We don't see any other switch in terms of the units here. He's still sticking with this very heavy roach sort of combo. He's got a lot of lings out, as we can see, just trying to counter-attack around the map. I think there was a drop here, missed that one, my bad. But the attacks are sort of going to need to be very, very careful here. Of course, this mech army has so much power. Of course, when you switch those tanks into siege mode, they will roll through anything. Speaking of rolling, banelings are out here. Not really sure what the banelings are going to do, because the mech army is just way too tough. They have eaten all of their spinach and they are beefed up, so there's no way the banelings are really going to do too much apart from these Marines and some of this little bioforce here. Drones coming out to play, but the fungal goes down, and some of that bio goes down, but I do not think that is enough for Master to try and secure this. The tanks have unsieged. This is going to be the final march in here with those tanks, and this base now with 3 hatcheries, of course, along here is going to be all pummeled to death in just a minute. We did have a counter-attack at the natural. It has been, a lot of those SCVs have been taken out there by Master, but there's just not enough, and we do have some lings now inside there. Once again, speaking of not enough, there's only a few lings inside there. The SCVs could probably take all of these out if Finest was watching that, but it looks as if he's not. He's busy watching his victory come into fruition there and taking the win there on Typhon. Finest doing a great job pushing through, holding his bases. That's probably one of the key things, as I mentioned earlier on, is actually taking this third base, securing it with a couple of turrets, making sure that the mutas can't come in and harass, and then proceeding to upgrade like a madman, getting the, what did he get to? +2 on armor and weapons for the infantry, and I think he had just a +1 on the, yeah, just the +1 on the mechanical units. So that's a good way to play, especially on this map, when you can actually push through these narrow crevices. Of course, the other option was to go through the top, but he did a great job doing it nonetheless. Now, we'll go into game 2, and game number 2 is on Metalopolis, so that can be once a very balanced map compared to, I would think, what people would consider this map is a little bit unbalanced, perhaps, just given the fact that it's a lot like Shakura's. But we'll go into that one very soon. Make sure you stay tuned. Cheers.